Have you ever stopped to think that some of life's greatest teachings don't come from books, gurus, or lectures, but from animals? Well, that's right. While we complicate things, they live with an instinctive wisdom that teaches, without saying a word, about love, focus, courage, and strategy. And the most curious thing, they do it naturally, effortlessly. What can a penguin, a giraffe, or even a wasp reveal about difficult decisions, coexistence, or even emotional intelligence? More than most people out there. These curiosities from the animal kingdom have the power to change the way you see the world, and even yourself. So stay with me, because what comes next is not just information. It's provocation. It's learning with lightness, surprise, and that touch of, how did I never notice that before? They don't wear a wedding ring on their finger, but they give a stone. Yes, a simple stone, but not just any stone, that carries the symbolic weight of commitment. This is how the Adelie penguin wins over its mate. It carefully searches for the best stone, clean, rounded, special. A kind of frozen engagement ring. And the most curious thing, when the female accepts, they form a pair for life. An example that carries more than love. It reveals values of choice, loyalty, and care that many humans are still trying to learn. It is fascinating to observe how these small beings, living in extreme environments, practice what, for many, seems like utopia, lasting love. And here lies one of the great curiosities of the animal kingdom. Eternal commitment is not exclusive to us. How many times have you seen someone change partners like they change cell phones? Well, yes. And the penguin, with fewer resources and more ice, chooses only one heart to share its life with. Maybe, deep down, what we lack is simplicity. Love is not about what you have, but about how you take care of yourself. Imagine if we applied this to our daily lives. Choosing our rocks, that is, our attitudes, better when committing to someone. Being selective, not in an arrogant sense, but consciously. It's not about perfection, but about intention. Want to learn from penguins? Start with small gestures, but full of presence. Listening attentively, respecting spaces, caring with affection. These are simple but powerful actions. And who would have thought that these curiosities about animal behavior could teach us so much about human relationships? But wait, there's much more to come, and speaking of unusual habits. Have you ever heard that giraffes hardly sleep? Well, that's the kind of curiosity that seems like a lie, but it's actually true, and full of lessons. Despite its imposing size and calm appearance, giraffes live in a constant state of alert. Yes, they sleep little, but not by choice, but by necessity. On average, they sleep 4 to 5 hours a day, often in 11-minute naps. And do you know what's even crazier? Even with so little rest, they remain firm, elegant, always looking at the horizon. Now think, what about us, who are always complaining about life because we wake up early or go to bed late? The giraffe teaches us, without saying a word, that the secret is not always in how much sleep we get, but in how much we live with presence. And here's one of those curiosities that can turn into gold for those who know how to apply it: time management. It's not about being productive like a machine, but about being strategic with the hours we have. Who knows, maybe you can start by trying a productivity block. The Pomodoro technique, for example, or even reducing the time spent on social media and using that space for something that truly feeds the soul. In fact, anyone who wants to start the day with more focus can learn practical lessons from giraffes. First, avoid heavy stimuli as soon as you wake up. Second, move your body, even if it's just a quick stretch, yes, like a giraffe stretching its neck. Third, be present in the present moment. Giraffes sleep little because they need to pay attention to everything. What about you? Have you been paying attention to what really matters? These little curiosities show us that even sleep can be reinvented. And speaking of reinvention, get ready for a breathtaking story, literally gigantic. Have you ever tried to move a sofa by yourself and nearly broke your back? Now imagine 5 men sweating it out to carry a snake that's almost 8 meters long. Yes, 8. We're talking about a colossal python that looks more like a tree trunk with scales. These giants don't come along every day, but when they do, the world stops. And it's not just because of their size, it's because of their aura of mystery, brute strength, and, of course, the curiosities surrounding these encounters that are worthy of a National Geographic documentary. But wait, there's a lesson here, you know? Nature keeps showing us that strength isn't just physical. It's strategy. The python, for example, doesn't chase its prey like crazy. It waits. It watches. It strikes at the right time. There are people who could take more inspiration from this, especially those who are always rushing through life's phases or making impulsive decisions. Instead of acting on impulse, how about acting shrewdly? In the world of investments, for example, it's not the one who runs the fastest who wins the most. It's the one who studies, observes, and acts at the right time. Just like the snake. Interestingly, these captures often occur in areas close to farms, plantations, or expanding construction projects. This shows the other side of the coin, the human impact on the natural habitat. The snake is not invading our space. We are the ones taking its space. And why does that matter? Because anything that is giant and out of place causes fear. And that fear, if not transformed into respect and knowledge, turns into ignorance. So the next time you hear a story about a giant snake, don't just be afraid. Try to understand the bigger picture. And speaking of curious behavior, wait until you find out what a panda does when it has 2 babies. Imagine having twins and simply choosing which one gets all your care, while the other is left to chance. Sounds cruel, right? But that's exactly what pandas do. When 2 cubs are born, the mother chooses the strongest one and focuses all her efforts on it. And it's not malice, it's survival. The panda's diet is so poor in nutrients that it simply doesn't have enough energy to care for 2. One of those curiosities that, at first glance, shocks, but, over time, makes sense. Nature doesn't romanticize anything. And pandas remind us of something fundamental. Sometimes, in order to preserve what is essential, we need to make difficult choices. In the real world, this can be translated in many ways. How many times have you tried to embrace the world and ended up losing yourself? This goes for projects, relationships, goals. Trying to take care of everything at once is a recipe for chaos. How about applying the panda's wisdom and focusing on what really matters right now? A good start might be to review your list of priorities. What is draining your energy without return? In fact, it is interesting to note that, despite being such cute animals, pandas make such strategic decisions. This breaks the idea that appearance defines essence. Furthermore, it shows us that simplicity is not synonymous with weakness. A mother panda knows exactly where to invest her energy, because in the end, this is what guarantees the continuity of the species. Have you ever stopped to think about where you invested yours? If your life were a bamboo forest, which baby would you choose to nurture? And speaking of instinctive decisions, wait until you understand why a 4-legged giant gets scared so easily. You might think that an animal the size of a car wouldn't be afraid of anything. But elephants, despite their imposing size, have a very curious weakness. They are easily frightened. No, not by mice. That's a cartoon legend. The real reason is their poor eyesight. An unexpected movement, a sudden shadow, and voila, a ton-sized elephant goes on alert. It's one of those curiosities that become perfect metaphors for real life. After all, how many times do we also overreact because we don't see the big picture? And here's how interesting it is. Fear, in these cases, doesn't come from weakness, but from a lack of clarity. Sound familiar? When we don't have enough information or strategic vision, any problem becomes a threat. That's where the importance of perception training comes in. Want a practical example? Instead of reacting impulsively to feedback at work, stop, breathe, and take in the whole context. Maybe it's not an attack, it's an adjustment. Elephants teach us that even giants need to pause before acting. Brute force doesn't overcome fear. Understanding does. In life, those who see little tend to stumble a lot. And this has nothing to do with myopia, but with a lack of perspective. Elephants show that it is not the size of the body that matters, but the size of the consciousness. And when you start paying attention to the curiosities of the world around you, you start to react less and act more. After all, do you want to be someone who lives running from the shadows, or someone who learns to walk in the dark with confidence? And since we are talking about understanding the behavior of surprising beings, here comes an epic duel. And no, it is not between rivals of the same size. If there's one silent feud that few people know about, it's the one between bees and wasps. At first glance, they all look the same, winged insects with stingers, flying from flower to flower. But don't be fooled, their behavior is as different as night and day. Bees are organized, work as a team, and respect each other's territories. Wasps, on the other hand, well, let's just say they have a more aggressive, unpredictable, almost rowdy style. They attack even without provocation, in a "I don't like your face, that's it" kind of way. And this is one of those curiosities that changes the way you look at nature, and at people, too. This contrast offers a great lesson for social and professional life. Have you ever noticed how some people are purely collaborative, like bees, and others who seem to be always ready for war, like wasps? The key is to know who you're dealing with. At work, for example, it's easy to confuse someone who's direct with someone who's aggressive. But understanding other people's temperaments, and your own, is what prevents many conflicts. Want a practical tip? Try to observe more before reacting. Not every attack deserves a counterattack. Sometimes, it deserves distance. And there's more. Bees, even though they are so small, are essential for maintaining life on the planet. As for wasps, they have a role, but not an indispensable one. This shows that those who make the most noise are not always those who contribute the most. The same goes for social networks, corporate environments, friendships. Do as the bee does. Focus on building, not competing. After all, as they say, those who shout the loudest achieve the least. Now that you've seen how even insects can teach us about human behavior, it's time to put it all together into something bigger. Now tell me, after all this, are you still going to look at an animal as if it were just a cute little animal? Or have you already started to notice the greatness hidden in the small acts of nature? The truth is that each of these curiosities carries a code of life. And the question that remains is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Are you just going to find it interesting? Or are you going to apply it, transform it, experiment it, and more? Which of these lessons really left a mark on you? Was it the penguin's unwavering love? The snake's strategic calm? Or perhaps the panda's sense of priority? Tell me in the comments. I want to know which insight left the biggest mark on you. And hey, don't let this learning die here. Share it, discuss it, experience it in practice. If you liked this content, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Because here, every week, we delve into stories that seem simple, but can change the way you see the world and live in it too.